So a few months ago, I filmed a video recommending science fiction books to people who might not be interested in the science fiction genre at all. And those books were, their themes were kind of grounded in science fiction, but on the outside, they didn't really seem like they were sci-fi books. But anyways, I think you all really liked that video. Who knows? Just a guess. Shortly after that one, I was like, oh, maybe I should do like another sci-fi recommendations video. And that video never happened until now. But this one's going to be a little bit different in the sense that this is going to be for people who are one of two people. It could be for people who are new to the sci-fi genre and just don't really know where to start because there are so many options out there and it just can feel a little bit overwhelming. Or this could really resonate with people who are not new to the genre at all, who love science fiction, but maybe there are a couple, one or two on this list that you still need to check off of your own. So I thought this would just be a really fun video. I swear to you, I've tried to film this video like 4 times now, all of them towards the end of last year. It's finally happening now, and I'm really excited to jump into this. So the first book making this list is Fahrenheit 451, and this is by Ray Bradbury. And this is so good. This is really my first encounter with a dystopian novel before I really understood what dystopian was and what it could be, what it meant, all that kind of stuff. And unlike probably a lot of people out there, I did not have to read this book in high school. Read it completely for fun. And it really just started me on this Bradbury train. I love Bradbury's work. He really inspires me as a writer. So, I mean, this is great. I think this is such a wonderful place to start with Ray Bradbury. But anyways, Fahrenheit 451, as I mentioned, is a dystopian novel. And in this, we have this main character named Guy Montauk, and it takes place in this world where books are banned. They're burned, and instead of firemen putting out fires, they start them. And Guy Montauk is a fireman. And so it really is this novel about censorship and knowledge. So in this, Guy, he goes about his normal day as a fireman, burning books, starting fires, and just really living a mundane lifestyle. And so his neighbor, she really starts showing Guy this other side of the world and what it used to be and what it still could be. And so that really sends Guy on this journey of really questioning the society that he's in and his job as a fireman and really the place of books in the world. And I think this is such a great read. If you have read Ray Bradbury in the past but have not read this one, I highly recommend it. You cannot go wrong with this book. This next one, I love this book to pieces. This is Ready Player One by Ernest Cline. In the beginning, I did not mention this, but this video, I want to recommend a balance of classics and modern books that I think have left a really unique stamp on the science fiction genre. And Ready Player One, in my opinion, is just amazing. I love this book. So in this book, this takes place in the sort of near future, and we have this world where people pretty much spend all of their time in VR. And so we have this VR world known as the Oasis, and people they can do everything they want in there. They can go to school, live their lives. I mean, you do not have to leave this world. But the creator of the Oasis, when he passes away, he ends up leaving a clue inside of the Oasis for someone to find and inherit his entire fortune. And so our main character is Wade Watts, and the book starts off when Wade comes across the first clue to unlocking this creator's entire fortune, and the whole world is watching him. I mean, this is just such a fun, I love this book so much. It's such a fun read. It's such a great read, and I truly think like this has left a really awesome stamp on science fictions. The next one I'm recommending is a classic, and this is like the classic of all classics, and this is The Time Machine, and this is by H.G. Wells. This book is, of all of the books on this list, this is probably the one that I did not really love. I enjoyed it. It was fine, but I don't love this book like I really love all of the other books on this list. But I'm recommending this because this is such a seminal piece of sci-fi. So in The Time Machine, we have this main character known only as the time traveler, and it's like a story within a story. He's hosting this dinner party, and he is trying to explain to his guests that he has built this machine that can, take you all throughout time and all this kind of stuff. And so he ends up using his time machine to go extremely far into the future, hundreds of thousands of years into the future. And he lives among these futuristic people. And he brings that story back to his dinner party. And the whole time you're hearing this story that he's telling, you're kind of thinking, is this really true? Like, did this actually happen? Did he really go that far into the future? Reading this, you can definitely recognize why it's still talked about today, why it's still relevant today. It's super short. You can seriously read this in one sitting like I did. And I think it's a classic for a reason. So you definitely have to read The Time Machine. Oh, my favorite. Next one is a favorite of mine. No one is surprised. I've recommended this book a lot on this channel. I talk about this author seriously all the time. I should just rename my channel like to be about this author, and that's Stories of Your Life and Others, and this is by Ted Chiang, and this is all of the wonderful adjectives that you can probably think of. This is a collection of 8 short stories, and they're just amazing pieces of work. Some of my favorite stories of just all time are in this collection. One of them, of course, is Story of Your Life, and that was what inspired the movie Arrival with Amy Adams, Jeremy Renner, Forest Whitaker. It's so good. And then the first story in here is The Tower of Babylon. And it is so, oh my God, I love talking about the story so much. It's the society that they're trying to, it's like a what if, like what if we built a tower high enough to actually reach heaven and reach God? Like what would that look like? And so we have this man climbing the tower, and what he finds on the journey up there is truly amazing. And then there's another story in here. I think I'm blanking on the name. I think it's called Division by Zero. Yes, it is called Division by Zero, and it follows this married couple, and the woman is like this genius mathematician, and she ends up proving, I think, okay, I don't know if I'm remembering this correctly. She ends up proving that every number is equal to like any other number, and the proof of that ends up driving her crazy, and it just like starts causing a huge strain in their marriage. Oh, so good. Not the strain in their marriage, obviously, but like it's so good. This next book I'm recommending, this one actually was on, I remember this, it was on that list of sci-fi for people who don't like sci-fi, and this just, everybody needs to read this. It's Kendrick by Octavia E. Butler. I myself I have other books by Octavia Butler on my shelf. I have Parable of the Sower, I have the Lilith's Brew trilogy, and I cannot wait to read more of her work this year. I really fell in love with it in 2019. In this, we're following this Black woman named Dana, and she is moving into an apartment with her new husband. When she's moving in and they're unpacking and everything, she starts to disappear. Like really, she ends up in the antebellum South, and she ends up saving this young white boy from drowning. And so this boy, Rufus, Dana ends up developing a really unique relationship with him, and she ends up saving his life more than one time. But each time she comes back to this period in history, Rufus is a little bit older and the times are changing a little bit more, and pretty soon you start understanding the connection that the two of them actually share. This is just a brilliant piece of work. I could seriously talk about Kendrick and Octavia Butler for an hour, and I only have read one book by her, so I hope that conveys like how much I really love this and how much I appreciate her work. This next one is another modern recommendation, and that is Red Rising, and this is by Pierce Brown, and this is the first book in the Red Rising saga. I did not like this book when I first read it. I don't even remember like what I didn't like about it. I just remember feeling like annoyed the whole time, and I think I was complaining about how boring it was, all that kind of stuff. But then time passed. I don't know what happened, but I ended up picking up this book again. And the funny thing is, I got rid of this book. I completely like unhauled it. And then like a year, maybe 2 years passed. And all of a sudden I was like, you know what? I think I want to pick up Red Rising again. I don't know why, but I don't know what happened. But I ended up listening to this on audiobook, and I just was like, this is the best thing I've ever read. I mean, it was a complete 180. This takes place on Mars, and we have this society that is broken into caste system by color. And so the Reds are at the very bottom, and we have our main character named Darrow, and he is mining Mars to make it more suitable for future generations. And that's just what his people do. It's what they've been doing for years. And something happens, and Darrow really becomes the leader of, kind of the hero of his people. And he starts working his way up through the ranks to get close to the tops. And I believe the golds are the ones who are at the top. I don't know how I'm so excited about Red Rising all these years later, but this is I enjoyed this so much. This next one, I can also talk about this until I am just exhausted of air. And this also made my list of best of 2019, and that's the 5th season by N.K. Jemisin. I think you should read the whole Broken Earth trilogy, and this is the first book. This is amazing. N.K. Jemisin's writing is out of this world, like seriously. In this book, we have this world where people are accustomed to it ending all the time. It goes through so many different catastrophic events. And so we have these people named Origines who have the ability to kind of quell and control these events that happen throughout the world. And so the 5th season is the world ending for the last time. And in this book, we have 3 main characters that we are following as they kind of navigate through this kind of chaotic event that is happening. And that is really all I'm going to say about that. This book is such a great example of excellent structure in writing, I think, tone in writing, world building, characters. I mean, it just fits the bill for so many great things. So I highly recommend this. I'm looking forward to reading N.K. Jemisin's other series. I think the first book is The 100,000 Kingdoms, so I really can't wait to read that. But this is really a work of greatness. So next is another classic by Ray Bradbury, and that is The Martian Chronicles. You need to read The Martian Chronicles. It's so good. But unlike Fahrenheit 451, which is actually a novel, The Martian Chronicles is a novel in story. So I'm not sure how many are in here. There are a lot. But all of the stories, oh yeah, there are a lot. The stories in here were already published short stories. I think some of them are original to The Martian Chronicles, but they've all been kind of strung together in this novelization format, and it works so well. But in The Martian Chronicles, we have people from Earth who are moving up to Mars, but they have just taken all of their problems up to Mars with them. Essentially, they just really can't escape things. But we're following a large kind of group of characters as they navigate between Earth and Mars, and loved ones who have left Earth to move to Mars. And I mean, Ray Bradbury just, I feel like, gets to the heart of so many issues that plague humanity, and just so many ways that we're similar while also highlighting our differences. I love it so much. I really appreciate his work a lot. The Martian Chronicles, classic. You cannot go wrong. I'm gonna make a video about like an introduction to Ray Bradbury and just kind of a comprehensive guide of his work, because it's great. This next one I'm gonna recommend is also a modern read, and this was a novella, and I read this a few months ago. And at the time, it's so funny because at the time, I thought the book was just, well, the novella, I thought it was okay, you know? And then the more it stayed with me though, the more I was like, I think I may really love this novella, and that is The Undefeated by Una McCormick. I think this is such a quick way to, especially maybe for newer readers to the genre, this is such a quick and such a fun and thought-provoking way to kind of introduce yourself into the genre. This is a novella where we are following this older woman. She's a journalist, and she's basically made her career, her living, exposing corruption in different areas of the galaxy on different planets. And so she, in her older age, she is kind of reflecting on her life and kind of the uprising that happened with one of the lower classes, and that uprising that happened kind of affected the rest of her life. So it's really great. I don't know, I really did not think I would still be talking about this book so many months later. And then finally, the last book that I think is just essential reading is The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, and this is of course by Douglas Adams. This is like The Time Machine. This is a classic for a reason. This is just silly. I was honestly surprised by how many laugh out loud moments I had while reading this book. I feel like the comedic timing in here is still so on point. It's still so relevant to today and how we live our lives today. I really enjoyed this. This is the classic story of Arthur Dent, who is living on Earth, and he is taken away from Earth just as it is destroyed, because there needs to be like a freeway through the place where Earth was, and this is hilarious. And so he is taken away from Earth, and Arthur, along with another main character who had a hand in writing The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, the two of them just end up having the craziest adventures throughout the galaxy. I mean, that is the story. And this one right here, this is actually the ultimate edition of The Hitchhiker's Guide. So this includes all 5 novels and an introduction by Neil Gaiman. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. That is it for me. Let me know down in the comments what sci-fi book that like got you started on your reading journey. I want to hear about it. For all the science fiction veterans out there, let me know down in the comments what are some books that you would recommend for beginners as well. And that is it. I hope you guys enjoyed this, and I will see you in the next video. Take care.